What's going on, everybody? Episode 8, The Last of Us. It is the spoiler-heavy review. Thank you for joining me here on the channel. If you've been here before, you're a subscriber, you've checked out these reviews before, thank you so much. Make sure that you comment, do all that for sure. Absolutely. Please, and thank you. And if you're not, and you're brand new to the channel, and you're like, hey, I want to hear people talking about this episode, well, do me a favor and show a little class. Hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 70,000. It costs you nothing. That's it. And you come back and you see us do this. You see us do reviews of the Mandalorian, long form, short form, all of it. Interviews. We had Katie Sackhoff on, Diego Luna, and you can catch all of it. And all you got to do is subscribe. Great. We got that out of the way. Okay, so as I said in my immediate reaction, that's what I do normally. I watch the show, and then I tape a little immediate reaction from my kitchen. I put it up there, and then the next day I do this kind of full-on spoiler review. And as I said in my reaction last night, I've said on all of my coverage this year of this season, the way that I set this up for myself was that I had the remastered version of the game sitting on my shelf for years. My wife bought it for me as a birthday present forever ago. And it was just kind of sitting there, and everyone told me how great the game was. And eventually I was like, I'll get to it. And then they announced the show, and I was like, what I should do is I'm going to watch each episode because everybody's talking about how great of an adaptation it is. And then I'm going to play up until the point so I don't get spoiled. And I did that for the majority of the season until, and again, this is spoiler, so if you're coming here and you go, wait, it's a spoiler, tough. When Henry and Sam wind up dying, I was like, okay, I'm going to play up to that point in the game now because I know what happens. And I kept going. And I'm like, you know why? Because I can't help myself was the real answer. But then I also thought to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what a lot of people who have played the game before have done and see the same way that if you watched Game of Thrones after reading the first couple of books or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or any, these things, how did the adaptation, because this is the first kind of video game, this is the argument that everyone's been making, that I think that the first real adaptation of a game that has been, accurate and like, well, no, Sonic is a very different game than it is. I'm not talking about good movies. We're talking about different in story, right? Pikachu, very different from the story that they made. Mortal Kombat, very different from the story that they made. Although Mortal Kombat's pretty much just the fighting of it. But you know what I'm saying? This was like the actual story and taking in how much did they change, how much does the stuff that they change work and all that. So this is the first episode that I was able to kind of do that because I knew where it was going to go. And so for the majority of it, I watched and said, oh, I can see why they took that out or made that change, but I wish they would have had that. And I wish they would have kept that in there. But I thought this episode was excellent. And it took a lot of the stuff that I just played this part of the game maybe a week ago. So it was very fresh in my mind of watching it. And there are certain things that they did. Like, for example, when they start out the entire episode of episode 8, they start here at the steakhouse where it all goes down at the very end, and David is introduced and he's talking to people. In the game, you don't see David talking to anybody. You start with Ellie in the woods. You start with Ellie hunting, and you are Ellie hunting. So the idea of seeing David first and introducing who David is, this is why I also want to make sure that we have a conversation in the comments section. Because I'm for people who have not played the game, like, what did you think of him? Did you think he was going to be a creepy weirdo? Or did you think, oh, maybe this guy is a good guy who's going to wind up helping them out? I'm very curious to what people saw the way this was set up, because it is set up in this scene, at least, and again, I don't know if it was because I know what's coming. I felt like, oh, they're setting this up almost like a David Koresh type thing, is the way it played to me. But again, it's because I knew who David was. So I don't know how that played for other people. Did it feel Koresh to you, or did it feel like, no, this guy could be a good dude? This is also part of the fascinating part of the show, and I think this dude does an amazing job here of playing David. So he's, we find out, he's like, listen, your dad's gone, but when it's too cold right now, but we'll make sure that we bury him, which we'll find out it's not what happened. They ate his motherfucking ass. They didn't bury him shit. And then you put that together later on. You're like, oh yeah, we're gonna bury him. No, he's hanging in the locker with Joe and Lewis. But then, you do get this kind of idea of him saying, okay, because this could be maybe the turning point for somebody who didn't play the game, and going, is this guy good or bad? Because they go, hey, there's a report of deer. We're running out of food here, man. What are we doing? And then they introduced this guy. Was this Troy Baker? Is that he's the guy who actually voiced Joel in the video game. So I love that they're doing this in the throughout the show. The people who've made this successful game, they're people that keep popping up throughout the entire, like Tommy, the voice of Tommy. Marlene actually plays the character that she played in the game, and then you have this dude who voiced Joel, who actually gets to play David's right-hand man. I thought that was pretty awesome that they did that as well. And he even talked about it afterwards. Like, I thought it was going to be someone kind of in like a clicker or whatever I was going to be, but the fact that I actually got to play this role was pretty sweet. I like that they're taking care of their own. A lot of times the voice actors, they just kind of get thrown to the side and forgotten after they've helped make the game so successful. It's like they never get asked to revitalize any roles whatsoever. Because you look, I mean, he doesn't look like Joel. Like, as far as could he have played Joel? Probably not. But the fact that they have him come back, his voice obviously does, but they have him come back and do a role, I thought that was pretty sweet. But anyway, they have this conversation. He's like, look, David says, I don't feel like the trust is there. He's like, they still trust you. Or they still want to fight. He's like, I'm not talking about them. He's like, I still believe in you, man. I still believe in it. So we find out that maybe he is a good guy. We don't know. I mean, again, I knew. People who played the game knew, but I don't know if you knew. And then we jump to Joel. Joel's in bad shape. And I saw, and I guess this is, again, from playing the game, I saw people who said, it looked like he recovered pretty well after getting that medicine. It recovers even a lot faster in the game. Does it make it better or easier to swallow? I don't know. But, like, it didn't bother me at all. And in the show, she actually gives him a few different shots, and he's in bad shape to figure out. I saw a comment that was like, maybe they could have given him adrenaline instead. That would have made more sense. I mean, maybe, but that would, to me, and if it bothered you, it's fine. To me, if I'm making that thing, it's a little nitpicky on my end, because I didn't mind it at all. But what it does is it shows she's trying to nurse him back. She's trying to figure it out, and then this is like in the game right before. Because it starts with her, this part. You're playing as Ellie and you're in the woods, and this is where I started kind of geeking out as someone who played the game, this portion of it. I'm like, oh, this is where she's gonna wind up shooting that deer. Because I think in the game she's got rabbits already with her, and she pops the deer, and she's excited with herself because remember, she was that shitty shot with Joel, and now she's getting better. And I'll tell you, this is the part of it that I did wish they would have done something, because I think it established something a little bit more. And that's, so this scene alone, this happens in the game, they have this great moment where she's just like, you see her tracking the deer, that he's like, someone's going to figure that we got this and let's drag it out of here and get the fuck out of here. And she's got him at gunpoint. She's like, beat it. She's like, look, we can trade you. Stick around. Because this is the one thing that I thought would have been, and I wonder what the choice was, why, right? And this is why I want to know from you guys how you felt in that opening scene with David talking in the church. Like, did you think right away he was going to be bad? Because when I was playing the game, this scene that you start with, this is the first time you see David in the game, and I'm playing it last week. I'm going, is this guy a good guy or bad guy? I can't tell yet. I can't tell, because he's like, oh no, go get the medicine. He's like, go get it for real. Don't mess around. Go get her the medicine, and we'll stick around here. And so he does, and she drags it back. And it's this part. This is the part where I went, and I felt like one of those people who's been saying this, because I have been advocating that I like the idea that we have not got a lot of infected people, because you're always looking around your shoulder wondering, when are they going to show up? And it's like, you don't necessarily need them all the time. I think you needed them in this scene, because in the game, David and Ellie, now they fight off like 40 of them in the game. You can't do that. But I think they could have had, and maybe it's a longer episode, and I think they accomplished everything they needed to. I don't think it necessarily needed, let me rephrase that. I don't think needed is the right word, but I think it would have been, I think I would have I trusted David more in the game, because he fights with Ellie, doesn't turn on her at all. They have a fight. She takes out a bunch of the infected. he takes out a few of the infected, and he goes, "You can fight, you can scrap." He's like, I got your back," and you're like, okay, this guy's a good guy. He's like, he could have turned on her right there, and he didn't. I think they established that in the show as well, but I was like, oh, they didn't do any infected here. But was it completely? Did it hurt the show for me? No, it didn't. But I think I would have liked to have seen it. But either way, it does bring up an amazing scene here that is also, I think, transfers over very well from the game, and that he's basically telling her everything about what they've got going on. He is a preacher. He does all this, and he's like, look, I believe everything happens for a reason. For example, and he lets her know that one of their people got killed by this dude who was with a little girl, and then that's when his boy comes flying around the sides, got the gun on. He goes, lower it, give her the medicine, and let her take off. And again, us going, well, what's this guy's game? She takes off, gets the medicine to Joel, and this is the scene that I really like. And I like when she's talking to him, and this is the kind of stuff that I like. And I don't think that this happened in the game. I might be wrong, but I don't think that it did. In the game, I think she just kind of puts it in his, his chest or whatever, and into the wound, and then that's it. But I like where she's like talking to him in this. Is again, masterful performance by Bella Ramsey. She's so fantastic, and like she does so much great things. Like her choices as an actress is just so beyond her years. It really is. Like certain things that she does. She does something at the end of the episode that we'll get into. But I mean, just to mention her, it's that scene at the very end when Joel finds her, and we'll go in more depth when we get there. But she does, right as she kind of realizes it's him, go back and watch that scene. She tries to say something, but she just can't because her brain's not there. She just tries to say a sentence, and it's gibberish. But it makes it so real that after what she just went through, you're like, yeah, you wouldn't be able to form a sentence in the way that you want to. And she just gives up and gives a hug. It's like it's little things like that she does. It was the same thing with the gasp after Henry shot himself, and her choices are just extraordinary. They're so good. She's so talented. Everybody in the show is very talented, but like she's got to carry this episode, and that's what Ellie does in the game. So I thought this so far, and even going back and playing parts that I had seen in the show first and then gone back, I looked at, that's significantly different. The adaptation is a little different, but the choices that they made, I thought this was the most pure adaptation of the story chapter yet, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. And then she's giving him the shot, and she's just trying to nurse him back, and he's just, he's in bad shape, and she gives him a couple shots, but the penicillin is working, and this couples to the end of the show really well, and she just kind of gives him, you see the relationship that they're forming. She wants him to come back. She wants him to come, to be back to the Joel that we've known. That she can, she doesn't want to be alone, but she also doesn't want to lose this guy because she's formed this bond with him. It's kind of father figure too, where you get this creepy weirdo over here in We Eat Humansville, and he's trying to be like this father figure, but like the wrong type of father figure. And then we get this scene where they're serving this meat, and you get tricked for like a split second as well, right? Because they're like, what is this? Like this meat, and she starts cooking it, and it's like, oh, it's venison. I'm like, well, it is venison because they got the meat from Ellie. But then the next scene is them throwing the deer, not even cut up or anything, to on the floor. What the hell are they eating? And you kind of know, and it's like, I'm getting ill just looking at that bowl. I know it's like it's real gross. And then he winds up cracking this girl in the head, and you see you get an idea right there, David, of the David that you're going to ultimately see at the end. They made the decision to say, no, this is a bad guy. The second he slaps that kid in the head and says, I'll still be your father figure. Like, this is like an abusive father, where the parallel to Joel, who is, look, Joel's done some shit, but he's going to protect Ellie, and he was a good dad. So it's that parallel between the two of them, a real protective father and the abusive father. And I thought that they did that really well, and they wanted it, and I think because in the game it obviously takes a little bit longer to get there and to realize who David is, but they only have like an hour and 10 minutes to do this, and I think they did it really well. So they decide, they're going to go looking for Ellie, and this is the part I really liked from the change, is that you see her give her yet another shot, and she knows shit's going down. A poor horse. You get a little more time with the horse in the game, not in this one. poor bastard. But she sees him. She sees him coming through, and I love the scene where he's. This is where you start to get the kind of creepy, abusive dad thing even more. He's like, look, I don't care what you do with this dangerous asshole that's running out there, but the girl lives. You understand me? He's got plans. It's like almost like the Emperor. He knows that he's trying to find his Vader. And they have that full-on conversation. They do not want her hurt, no matter what. And Joel hears some shit going down. He's starting. She leaves him with the knife, which is ultimately where we get to at the end. And it's my other biggest. I wish they would have. That we'll get to in a little bit. But she takes off on the horse. There's an amazing moment here. She starts shooting at him to lead him away. And this is again similar to what they do in the game, and plays really, really well. And she's driving away, and they give it to the irony of the fact that it's Joel, the voice of Joel, who shoots her off the horse. She lands off the horse. They get her, and they're about to pop her, and he's like, "No, I said keep her alive, you fucking assholes." And it's again this parallel of him carrying her off, and then this is when we get Joel back, and this whole scene. This was a creepy scene in general, right? Because like Joel pops out, kills the guy. This was one of the most realistic freaking deaths. I was like, I don't think that guy made it in real life. Of course he did, but like, you know what I mean? Like I was like that. The stuff that they do on this show, like the intensity of it, and the positions that they put. You know what I also really liked about these guys, that David's guys. In a lot of these shows, and in general, they want to pitch it as like all these guys are bad guys. They're all bad guys. They do everything bad, and they're going to act like badasses from the in and out. There's times, even like in the scene that we'll get to in a moment, that you hear like these guys. They're not like super experienced hunters and killers and everything too. They're trying to get revenge on their buddy that died from the university. And they're going up against somebody they're not going to be able to handle it, because Joel's going to, unless, Ellie has gotten his guard down, but nobody else is going to. And Joel is a hardcore killer, and doesn't give a fuck about if you might be a dad or you might be, and that's what I liked about it, is that these are like, these people like are just like this community with a family, and like it's not as black and white as the bad guys and the good guys. They're on the opposite side of the people we're rooting for, is the way that this was made very clear. And I loved it. And it was such a different way to approach it. But this guy, toast. And then Joel's like, okay, I got to find out where she is. There's a little bit more of them. But then they put this cage scene, again, ripped right from the game, which was fantastic on both sides. And they add a little bit more, and then they said it in the after thing, where they had this conversation, this kind of parallel between David and Ellie, where he's like, I see violence in your heart, and there's always been violence in my heart. And she's kind of like understanding it for a little bit, at least you think. But then we jump back to this, and this is what I really loved about the game, was the back and forth. You're playing as Ellie, you're playing as Joel, and watching these two separate adventures. They're both trying to do the same thing, and that's get Ellie free. And so this guy was fantastic. He was fantastic, because normally they would use this guy as just like a pure on like creepy weirdo bad dude, but like he's looking after his friends, he's wondering where his buddies are, and he's the guy at the end that Joel like cracks in the head with a pipe, who's just like, what are you doing, man? Like the guy told you everything you wanted to know. He's like, don't kill him, please, don't do it. He's like, I love the way they played. Joel whacks him in the head, and this again, right out of the game, you kind of know what's coming. But he tells this guy, he's like, hey, listen, jerk-off, where is she? I'm going to take your kneecap off. And it's played so well. And this is why, this is right out of the game. It's right out of the game. And this is what I'm always saying, if you're brand new to the channel and you've never seen me talk about, like, I really want them to make, like, for Star Wars, they have a lot of different books that they have, whether it's the Darth Plagueis novel, whether it is Lost Stars, whether it's the Darth Bane trilogy, all these different things that I don't understand why they don't adapt their books. Where people are like, well, you know what's coming. I know it's coming in this scene, and it plays just as good, and it's incredible to watch. In the same way that if I know that I saw a play out, whether it was in high school or on Broadway or someone too, and then they adapt that play and they make it a movie, I know it's coming, but did they adapt it the right way? And that's what they do in this scene, and it's fantastic. because Pedro Pascal just plays this brilliantly. He looks exhausted. He looks tired. He looks fucking angry. And they play this up. The set design on this show is just next level, man. And the whole goal is not to do anything except find out for sure where she is. He gives him the breakdown of where this kid is, and then he takes him out. He says, "Okay, look, your buddy better point to the same exact spot." And this is what he did with the couple in a few episodes. Where he kills the guy, and then he's like, "What are you doing, man?" He told him everything you want. He's like, "Yeah, I believe him." Cracks him in the head with a pipe, and that's the end of that. Back to these two, and this is when the plate of slop comes in. He promises this time that it's deer, and it's like a sickening scene. But you really start to get now. David's getting even creepier. That fucking ear on the floor, just leave it. That had to be left there on purpose. But this to show Ellie that listen, we had to do what we had to do to keep these people alive. And this is where it got really creepy in the game. It gets really creepy here. This is where the Koresh side of it is like, not only he's like, he wants to raise a family with her. He wants to do this and that. And she's like, starts to play into it. And then she freaking breaks the guy's finger. And I love this scene where she's screaming at him again. Excellent acting by Bella Ramsey. And now, okay, this is my biggest gripe with the entire show for this episode, not the entire show, the entire episode. This is my biggest gripe with it because I think that it was missing, as where I could take away the Walker stuff, and I get it. They don't necessarily need it. You still get everything that you need. One of my favorite parts in the entire game so far is in this portion of the game when Joel is looking for Ellie. I think it is a brilliant decision and it's necessary for the character of Ellie. Joel can't save her. She's got to save herself and rely on that violent side of her to get herself out. That is absolutely crucial, needs to happen, and I'm glad that they made that move in both the game and in this. However, my favorite part in the damn game is when you get to play Joel as he's making his way to her, and he's picking people off left and right from as he's making his move through the town, and he's knocking people off, and you gotta snipe people, and you gotta move through, and you gotta get to that spot because there's people who are guarding the town. They don't do that in this. It's just he's just kind of like trotting along, and I guess maybe it's because they wanted to keep away from how injured he is, and maybe they wanted to again make the focus totally on Ellie. But I think a couple of shots of him just picking people off from the side of him, I guess it couldn't be. It's not silenced. It was the only thing, and maybe it's because I loved it. Do I think it took away from the story? No, but it would have given Joel just a little bit more to do in this episode because I love it in the game. It's like it's such a they jump back and forth in the game. You're playing as Ellie. You're playing through these. Everything they do with Ellie and David in this, the transfer from the game to this is just chef's kiss. Wonderful. I mean, no pun intended. But the Joel part, I was like, I would have liked to seen that. There's a shot where you have to like barrel your way through and take people out on the way there. But nonetheless, he's trying to find his way there. And then we get to this is from the game. He finds the backpack of Ellie, and I love that they used like the flashlight and everything. And you see the creepy bodies out there, and they throw her up on the thing. And they're like, all right, this is it. You had your chance. He said, "What'd you say? Chop it up in little pieces. Well, you're gonna get your order. You're gonna get it. We're gonna eat you." And she pulls out the uninfected thing, just like they do again, right from the game. But she takes her moment, and that's the end of Joel's voice in the game, right to the head, right to the neck. See you later, fuckface. And she makes it right back to that steak restaurant. And then this part, this is the creepiest part of the entire game, at least for me. Like, I always talk about, like, I had this moment in when I saw the first, how was it? No, it was Paranormal Activity 3 when I saw it with Ellis. And I was living at this older apartment, and it was this garage. And I normally don't get creeped out by these movies and stuff too, but I pulled into my garage, and I never got home. Like, I almost ran from my car I walked really fast from my car into my house because I was just like, that was a creepy fucking movie. And I moved fast. And I had like this particular feeling when I was watching that movie that I got with this scene in the game, because you don't know how to beat this fucking asshole in the game, and you're getting chased by David, and you got to throw shit at him. And I love that and this is how you do it, where like I want to be like a just listening in on the writers' meeting and going, okay, how do we make it true to the game, but still make it relevant to what's going on here? And they do, because it's just necessary. She comes in, he's chasing her, and she fires a fucking flaming bottle at him, which you do in the game, and he gets the hell out of the way, and he's just and she sets the thing on fire in the show, and he's just saying Ellie, and that's again being able to show like where he's gone as a character and showing what he really is, his true nature. And this is the part I got to see if they cut some stuff out, because this is the part of the game. Like right now, I was waiting for him to start picking people off, but it's basically him just finding his way to Ellie. And you think, and it's more for, I think that what they were going for, which I think they accomplished. And this is for, again, I guess another question for you guys who didn't play the game and were watching. I think that they're setting it up for you to think that Joel is going to make his way there, to take David out, where even when David kind of gets on top of her and he's about to have his way with her, and he looks like he's won. I think people are thinking Joel's coming in, but she ultimately, like I said, it's about her, and it's about her getting this. This is again so great the way that they played this, because this is what you have to do in the game. You got to find a way to stab his ass, and then he throws her on the floor, and she just fucking goes with all that rage, takes his ass out. But as she gets out and she's just, finally bursts out of the steakhouse, this moment here, this is what I was talking about before, where she sees him and she tries to get that sentence out. She can't do it. And she just hugs him. And he says that line, man, I got you, baby girl, I got you. I think that just kind of that got everybody. And then they get the hell out of the Dodge. And that's it. It's a fantastic. What did I do here? Did I do what I think I did? What an idiot I am. This whole entire episode, I'm sure you guys probably said this. Stupid. That's been like that the whole time? That's dumb. I'm sorry. Anyway. What a great episode. What a great show. I love this show. What do you guys think? I'm so curious for those. I mean, let me hear from everybody. Let me hear from those people who didn't play the game, and what you thought was going to happen, what you thought of David. Did you think Joel was going to survive? All of that. For the people who did play the game, were you hoping for, David to battle some walkers, some of the infected with Ellie? Or didn't you? It wasn't necessary. Did you think Joel needed to pick some people off on the way? Not necessary. Very curious to both sides, and let me know exactly what you thought. All right. If you guys have not already done so, show a little class. Hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 70,000. I'm going to do a live stream later on the Kristian Harloff and Friends channel, not on this channel, with both myself and Roxy Stryer and Bobby Finstock. We're going to be live in studio doing one of those, so hopefully you join us over there. We've been trying to live stream as much as possible lately. It's been a lot of fun. And that's really it, everybody. Thank you so much. Make sure you comment, click like. We're going to have a little episode of The Big Thing as well on this channel. So thanks. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace.